If you were to show someone an upcoming, promising-looking MMO like Guild Wars 2, then sure, they may be interested. But if you then tell them there's no subscription fee, you tend to get one of two reactions. Some will be over the moon, shocked and disbelieving, but willing to try it out nonetheless. Others will decide on the spot that they're no longer interested, reasoning that no subscriptionless AAA MMO has ever been made, that this will be no different, and that it will ultimately fail. Sadly, if you tell someone there's no sub fee without showing off any gameplay first, the number of people in the latter category swells massively. And so I've decided to make this video. I want to discuss whether the general attitude that some people have, that great MMOs need subscription fees, still holds true today. Now, I don't need to waste our time raving about how great a subscriptionless MMO could be. All worries aside, none of us really want to spend $15 every month on our favourite game. The problem is that we like to think our money's been doing something good. We say it's what stops the game being laggy, that it protects us from greedy cash shops, or that it's just good for the community. How true any of these things really are depends on the game, but there are two main arguments people tend to use to justify a subscription. First, we have server costs. They say an MMO needs a subscription fee to maintain the expensive servers that it's run on. If we were still in the late 90s, I would be inclined to agree with you. This used to be a real problem when the genre and, indeed, the internet were first finding their ground. MMOs like Ultima Online and EverQuest had to charge a sub fee if they had any chance of success. Today, this is not the case, and we can see the proof. Large companies like Activision and NCSoft have to publish where their money goes for shareholders. If we look at this information, we can see that the bandwidth costs for all 5 online MMOs ran by NCSoft, including all their websites, all downloads and other services, they don't even appear in their own category. No, the amount it costs is so little in the grand scheme of things, they get just a footnote. There's a similar story for Activision and World of Warcraft. The MMO cost of sales section lists all expenses on WoW for 3 months. So we can split that number in 3 to find the month-by-month total. And it works out to about $20 million a month. But bear in mind, this isn't just the cost of servers, but things like support and studio rent too. So you can divide 20 million by the amount of subscribers and have a rough idea of how much each player, each month, actually costs to them. And it's not much, at all. Sure, these are just ballpark figures, and I don't want to bog this down in maths, but we're a hell of a long way from $15. It's the exact same story across the board. You just can't justify a subscription fee by pointing to upkeep costs anymore. And so we come to the second reason. They say you pay a subscription for the service of continued content updates and patches for the game. It's true that MMOs do need constant updates and maintenance to thrive and grow. But really, I have 2 issues with this idea. Firstly, since when were balance tweaks, bug fixes and maintenance something we had to pay for? In any other genre, customers expect to buy a bug-free complete game. Anything overlooked in Q&A is given in free updates later. You don't have to pay for that privilege. So why are MMOs any different? I can understand that MMOs tend to be bigger games with more bugs in the first place, but is that really any excuse to charge us for the fixes? Patches aside, it's often claimed that a subscription fee pays for new content updates to be developed. This is a fallacy. How often do games like Ion, World of Warcraft or Rift actually add new content and features without charging you an extra $40 on an expansion pack? Sure, they might do it, but how often? And more importantly, are these sporadic updates worth $15 from your pocket each and every month? Now, I'm well aware that there are exceptions to this. Some companies push out a lot more content updates than others, and some will never charge you for future expansions on top of your subscription. And that's cool. It just comes down to how you value your money and the content you're given in each individual case. The problem is that most of us don't value the content we're being given. Every year, are you getting $180 worth, 4 expansions worth of extra content and features? I feel like we're at a worrying point where it's becoming industry standard for these so-called AAA MMOs to have a subscription fee and fully priced expansion packs. Having both is needless. And this is what Guild Wars 2 recognises. There is no subscription fee since their revenue comes from the box. You buy it once, it's free forever afterwards. When an expansion comes out, you can pay for that too, and the developer continues to generate income. The key difference here is that we, the players, get to choose whether the content being released is actually worth our money, rather than throwing out a blanket sum every month and simply getting what we're given. And we don't just get more freedom, but we're also driving the developers to continue pushing out content we actually want to play. So really, everybody wins. Because of this buy-to-play model, Guild Wars 2 is just like any other non-MMO game. And despite being subscriptionless, you won't find it with a cruel cash shop that sells power or gold through microtransactions. There will be microtransactions, but these will be primarily service-based, selling character slots, storage tabs, or name changes along with other cosmetic things for good measure. The philosophy is that you can play the game without ever buying what's available. It wouldn't be any worse than what you already see in World of Warcraft or hell, many single-player games today like Mass Effect or Fable. ArenaNet can do this because, again, revenue primarily comes from the boxes. If you want proof, Guild Wars 1 used this exact same business model and sold over 6 million copies over 5 years with no problems before ever having an in-game store. Guild Wars 2 may be a terrible game. It might crash and burn. But if it did, it wouldn't be because it lacked a subscription fee. Charging players $15 a month is not what makes a good game, and people are beginning to wise up. Subscriptions are simply left over from when the genre was starting out and only exist because we, the players, are still willing to pay for them. Now, don't get me wrong here, I do appreciate that subscription fees can have their perks. But over the past year, we've seen many MMOs drop their sub fees for something else and enjoyed real success, which is a trend that, if we let it, will continue. I know some of you might be sat there right now wanting to justify subscription fees because you've spent so much on one already, but don't bury your head in the sand. Don't shun games like Guild Wars 2, because this could be the future, if only you let it be.